Imogen Clark, how about that for LA?
Imogen Clark at the top of the screen, and lane number 1 gets it.
She got it done!
Oh, LA!
The only difference between try and triumph is a little oomph. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Sports for Champions podcast. Today I'm joined by Team GB's Imogen Clark. How are you today, Imogen?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm brilliant, thank you. Thanks so much for joining us today. So I'd like to start, if we could take you all the way back. Have you always been athletic?
Yes, yeah, always. Since being a little one, I've always been doing some kind of sport.
Yeah, and you were very early into the swimming pool. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, we always used to do, like toddlers and parents when you're a little tot, and then I've always swam with school, primary school and secondary school, always been swimming, and then at 9 I got scouted by a swimming team at a school gala.
Wow.
So as of 9 I've been training at a club.
Wow, that's amazing. And were your parents particularly involved in sport, or what kind of led them to take you so early on?
My dad was, so my dad used to be a swimmer. He got to national level.
Right.
However, he didn't want me to swim after knowing about the early mornings and all the commitment. However, I think to be honest, swimming kind of chose me over everything. I used to do a lot of other sports as well, but that was the one I excelled in.
That's amazing. So obviously you said then that you were scouted at 9. Can you tell us a little bit about how that experience, how did you feel?
I was really excited just to see what it was like, meeting new friends, a new team, get to know people who aren't just your school friends. That was really exciting, and it was pretty quick after I joined the club. I did my first ever competition, which was mortifying, to be honest. It's really scary, but it was something that I've grew to love now. I think if I hadn't have been scouted then, it's like, where would my life be right now?
No, of course. And then obviously competing at such a young age, I can imagine that must have been really daunting. How were those early competitions and how did you deal with the pressure?
Yeah, they were really scary, to be honest. I always remember how scary it was. I think I cried through a lot of them. But I had one of my friends there who was a bit older than me, and she kind of took me under her wing and looked after me. It was, even though swimming's an individual sport, your team around you is, even today, is what keeps you going. And I think from being so young, having that like team and network around you is kind of what made me keep going.
Do you remember your first sort of success, or your first maybe even like good performance you were really proud of?
I do remember winning the Derbyshire County Championships and getting my little flag that I got. That was probably one of my first ever really big wins. I'd wanted for a while, and to get it was great.
Wow. And did you know at that point this is something that you really wanted to take professionally, or were you still kind of not quite sure?
Not at all, no. I didn't really realise that, I don't think, till like she kind of turned professional. It was always just something I did, was good at, and I enjoyed, but I never really even realised that could be professional, and I didn't realise that could become my life, so no, not at all.
Wow. And you said your dad had a few concerns maybe about some of the early mornings. What age did they kick in?
The early mornings, probably pretty soon on, to be honest. Maybe a few years after. I was only 9, so I didn't do any early mornings then, but I'm sure as I become a teen, you start doing the 4:30 get-ups to be in the pool for 5:30.
Wow.
So Dad was a big part that obviously can't drive at that age, so Dad used to do the morning runs. Mum would help me get to school. Big family, like everyone pulled in really to do what they can because they've got work as well.
Yeah,
big time commitment.
It's a recurring theme really. The support of your family is so important, and especially in your early days as a young athlete. Can you remember how that impacted you sort of socially, and maybe how your approach to school?
I think socially you don't really have much of a social life outside of the sport, especially when it was more secondary school. I'd be getting up at 4:30, going training before school. I'd turn up at school, and as soon as it was 3:10, I'd be straight back in the car on the way to training. I didn't used to go home in between. So I think my social life was my swimming friends. That was my almost escape, if you like. It was the thing that I loved doing. It's where I got to have a laugh and be me. So it's kind of, you had your two groups. I had my school friends and then my swimming friends.
Wow. And then so leading on from that, you obviously did take it professionally. Can you remember the first sort of transition into this is what I'm going to be doing?
It was when actually where I used to train at my club, the pool got closed down, which meant I actually got invited to join Loughborough. So at 17 I moved out of home, moved down to Loughborough, and I think that's when it kind of hit me that this could be what I could do. It wasn't just something alongside your education or an add-on. That became me, that became what I did. So yeah, then.
That's amazing. And was there anyone that you really looked up to at that time? Is there somebody who'd kind of gone through that kind of route before, or did you feel like you were kind of forging your own path?
No, I did know a few people from the club who still swim now, who went through the exact same transition as me. So I knew what it was like. It could be done. I just didn't know that it could be me doing it until it kind of happened. 17's
so young to be sort of like leaving everything, all the security of your family and everything, and obviously quite far away from you in Derbyshire to head down to Loughborough. How was that sort of first year? Was it a big adjustment for you? Yeah,
it was a big adjustment. I mean, I remember passing my driver's test and straight away driving myself down the M1 to Loughborough, straight on it. No more trips for my dad to take me to early morning training, but it was more exciting. I think I had a really good support down there, and I mean it's quite far, but similarly it's only 45 minutes on the motorway, which was nice. So they was always coming down to meet me, and I was always going back home just to keep in touch, because it is young to be in that kind of a professional environment, which is quite full on. So yeah, it was a good, like, life-changing experience, I think.
It must have been a big step up in terms of training and things like that. What was the regime like compared to what you were doing before?
To be fair, not much difference. I think I was doing around 8 or 9 swims a week at my club. When I moved down to Loughborough, it was the same, 8 or 9 swims a week, and then gym on top of that. It was just more social hours. It was no 4:30 get-ups. It was later starts, earlier finishes in the evening. You didn't have to go to school in the middle of the day, so you could do your gym work at 12 o'clock if you needed to. You could sleep. So the whole lifestyle thing, it almost just became easier because I wasn't having to do anything else other than my training.
Yeah, so I think your first sort of major outing, a major comp, was in 2018, is that right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us, that was Europeans, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Europeans in Glasgow. That was my GB debut, which was amazing. It was a home crowd, didn't have to travel very far, which, I mean, sometimes it's nice to go to somewhere exotic, but sometimes that home advantage really does come into play. And I came away with that with a silver medal and a new British record. So that was just so exciting, because you never really know how you're going to cope under that almost pressure and the higher stage and racing people as fast as that who you've never been against that before. So to come out with a medal just really like assured me that where I was going and that this was like the right decision to make.
Is that something you enjoy, that pressure?
Yeah.
How do you feel like it impacts your performance?
I think I'm someone who strives under that pressure. I love just thinking I can try and beat you, and if you do, you know it's going to be something crazy. I think I just absolutely love that. It's the thrill. It's why I train. Swim training is hard. Like, it is hard. No one wants to be up at 4:30 and getting into a cold pool, but that is why I do it, because I just love to race.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And then obviously this summer, an unbelievable performance at the Commonwealth. Congratulations.
Thank
you. A silver medal there. Can you tell us a little bit about that whole experience?
Oh, I think the whole experience was amazing. Everything was just so local. So the holding camp before we actually went to the village was in Loughborough. Everything was so familiar, close to home. And then just to be racing in Birmingham was incredible. I remember walking out for my heat swim, so it wasn't a final or anything spectacular. It was just a morning heat swim, and the crowd was crazy, and I won my heat. And I remember touching the wall, and it was so loud. I've never experienced anything so loud. I actually turned around because I thought I'd broken a world record. I was like, I must have done something crazy for it to be this loud, but it wasn't. It was everyone was just there supporting you. And the nicest thing was to be on such a big stage, to have all my support network who's seen me grow from being the 9-year-old swimmer to now. Everyone was there in the crowd that I got to see, so it was a brilliant experience.
That's so good that they could be there for you. And I believe that was another record that you broke during that swim. Was it your own record as well?
Yeah, so I broke my own British record in the final.
Wow, that's absolutely fantastic. And then I believe there was a fairly quick turnaround again for the Europeans. Was it less than a week?
Yeah, it was 3 days from finding out I was going on the team to flying.
Wow, how does that affect your preparation? Presumably your fitness is already there, but in terms of getting yourself into the right sort of headspace.
Yeah, it was a weird one, because for me, after I'd finished racing at the Commonwealths, my season was over then. That was me. Summer holiday kind of mode was almost turned on. I wasn't, because I was still in the village, but it's the time where you can finally breathe and relax. to then find out a few days after that I'm going to the Europeans, it was like I've got to get back in the pool and train again. Like I say, you don't lose much in that time. If anything, a rest after racing is pretty good. But it was more just getting switched back on that, right, I'm going to race some of the fastest girls in the world again. Let's get going. So
hopefully you didn't load up on too much junk food in the meantime.
A little bit.
Yeah. Brilliant. So you went off to the Europeans. How was that?
A wild one. I actually got COVID on the way out there.
Oh wow.
So I spent a full week in isolation over there. Stuck in my hotel room, all the meals got brought to me, so I actually ended up missing one of my races because I was still in isolation. I got let out the night before my 50 metre race, which is my best race.
Wow.
Was the Tuesday morning, so I came out of 7 days in a hotel room and raced the following morning.
So can you do some fitness work in your room, or what would you be doing normally?
I mean, I'd normally be swimming. You don't normally train hard for a swim meet, but you'd normally be racing. You'd keep sharp. You'd keep your feel for the water, which obviously all that was taken out of my hands for the first few days. It was just a matter of, just doing what you can, trying to just stay mentally happy. I think was my key. It was just not to get bogged down in there. And then after 3 days in there, I managed to get a bike. So I was able to a stationary bike, just to sit on a bike for an hour a day, just to keep the legs going, because my room I could only fit in about 3 or 4 steps. It wasn't very big, so it was just about staying happy during that time. So if I was able to be out for racing, which I was, that at least my mind was good to go.
So with all that against you, you still managed to achieve a bronze?
Yes.
Wow,
yeah.
That's incredible. How do you feel the race went in and of itself?
Oh, it was a great race to be a part of, if I'm honest. Like I said, it's been 4 years since it's been at European Champs, so just that alone was great to be a part of. But you had the world record holder in there for my event and the recent world champion in there. So I know it's a Europeans and not a world championships, but you've got the fastest people in the world right there, and to do that after such an exciting summer was just like the cherry on top. Yeah,
that is an incredible summer, all in all. Do you remember? Sorry, I'm gonna do that again. Such an incredible summer, all in all. Do you sort of look back on it now and sort of reflect on that as your best summer yet, or do you think it's something you kind of is this the beginning for you? Because you've not actually raced as many international tournaments as you probably will in the future.
Yeah, I think it's the best summer I've ever had. I think it's my best actual season of my career I've ever had. Starting off like back in December time, the whole season's been incredible, but hopefully this is the start of something much bigger and better to come. I think this is just the start of the snowball.
And then rankings wise, how's that affected your rankings?
So I think I'm 6th in the world now for
Incredible.
The rankings of that. So first in Britain, which is great to hold.
Absolutely amazing. So I'm sure there's plenty more to come then in the upcoming years. If we could take you back a little bit, I know that you've not had the easiest ride in terms of your progression through the sport. When you were 9 years old, you were diagnosed with epilepsy. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it was when I was 14.
Sorry, when you're 14.
That's okay. When I was 14, I had a seizure in the swimming pool whilst I was training. It was my coach who got me out, and I don't remember any of it. But then the doctors put it down as just a growth spurt, nothing crazy,
Okay.
and went a full year without having another seizure. And then a year later, had several more in the pool, some at home. When I was doing land training at the pool. Eventually, after I had about 6 to 8 weeks, I think I was under testing, because they basically just didn't know quite what was happening. Towards the end of that, they discovered I got epilepsy. So, yeah.
It can't have been easy psychologically to get back in the pool. Can you remember sort of that journey of sort of understanding what was happening to you and then sort of living with it and taking your life forward?
Yeah, I think that was the main thing. I think before I got diagnosed, I didn't actually know what epilepsy was. I don't know, like my knowledge of it was just flashing lights, and I think that's the common misconception about epilepsy. There's only 4% of people actually have photosensitive epilepsy. So for me, it was finding out what my condition was, how it affected me, and how was best to protect me. So when it came to getting back in the pool, the doctors very much advised maybe not to go back, because I had so many in the water. But for me, it was my passion, something I love to do. So it's more about keeping safe. So I used to wear a different colour swimming hat to the rest of everyone else trading, so I was like easy identifiable to the lifeguards, and everyone knew. Like it's not something I kept a secret or was like ashamed of. It was like, right, this is what I've got. I'm telling everyone so I can be safe and let's crack on. Like, thankfully it doesn't like impact my day-to-day life with the medication that I'm on, which I'm very thankful for, because I know that's not the case for everyone who's got epilepsy. But like I say, it's understanding your own situation and doing what you can with that.
It's can't have been easy, and it's so inspirational to the viewers back home as well. Is there anything like specific that motivates you to carry on, especially when you've overcome such hurdles already?
I think I've not got this far to only get this far. I think that's my main thing that motivates me, is I know what I've put into this, and I think my end goal is, whether this ever happens or not, is I want to be the fastest person in the world. And that's like what drives me every single day, whether it's a good day or a bad day. I think that is what I want. That would be something that no one can take away from you. And I mean, there's a lot of people in the world, like, fastest person on the planet is like what just motivates me every single day. To say, when I was a little girl, all you wanted to do is make counties, and then you want to make Midlands, and you want to make nationals, and now it's like there's never like an ending point, I don't think. But I think that's the goal that keeps me going.
Wow. I know that's not the only hurdle that you've faced. You're actually an unsponsored athlete. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works and about some of the challenges you've faced with that? Yeah,
I mean, it's really hard not being on funding. Being a professional athlete, you don't have a lot of time you can't just go and get a normal job, because the hours that you have out of training is when you're recovering, so you can be on form for your next training. You only race as good as you've trained for. So not being on funding has been a real struggle. Thankfully, I've had the International Swimming League that I race for. That's you get prize money for that, and that prize money has managed to last me over the last few years. But without actually funding support, and now the ISL has been postponed this year, it's left me with, to be honest, pretty much nothing. I've had to move home because I couldn't afford to rent a place anymore, so I'm back at the parents after moving out 6 years ago. It's just really hard. I'm only normal. I have training fees to pay for. I have all my equipment, my racing suits, competitions that you have to pay for. So not being on funding is a real struggle. I'm thankful to have family who do support me, and I try and earn money how I can. But then this is where this is gonna hopefully really help me out.
Yeah, hopefully we can really help you out for the oncoming season. It does seem sort of unusual that the number 6 swimmer in the world doesn't have any funding. Hopefully that's something that changes over the next coming years. So with such a stringent training regime, and obviously with the competition so high with so much participation in swimming, how do you see the roles of talent and hard work playing against each other?
I think at a young age, I think talent can carry you quite far. I think if you're 6 foot at 10, you're going to be a fast swimmer, because you're going to be at that wall pretty easy before anyone else. But overall, it's hard work. I think that wins. All your top guys in the world, they're probably the most talented and probably the most hardworking. I think it's a mixture of both. But when you stand against the fastest people in the world, there's not one person there who's probably out training someone else. I think everyone is literally doing the best they can to the hardest they can go. So I do believe it's hard work that gets you to the top.
Yeah. And how often are you training at the moment?
So currently just starting back into a new season, I'm doing 7 swims and 4 gyms a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you get right up to the peak of your training, what level would it be at then?
Probably go up to 9 swims, I think, and then stick with the 4 gyms. I'm a sprint athlete, so I don't do as much as what some people do, but yeah, that'll be what it goes to.
That seems a lot. Anyway, I think that seems plenty to me.
Yeah.
And in terms of nutrition, what's your approach there?
To be fair, I eat fairly healthy. That being said, I eat what my body needs.
Yeah.
I let my body tell me what I need. If I'm hungry, I'll go and eat. After I've just done a big 6K swim in the morning, I'll go home and have a couple of biscuits if I like with my cup of tea.
Yeah.
So with nutrition, I think everything in moderation is how I kind of approach it, and just make sure that I'm fueled enough to be able to do what I need my body to do.
Do you have a favourite go-to meal?
Ooh, favourite go-to meal. To be honest, probably just chicken and rice and veg is what I kind of live off.
What about a treat meal? Say, for example, if you had a good performance, or maybe at the end of the season, what was the go-to?
Pizza. Always a pizza, yeah.
What kind of pizza? What are you having?
Like a meat feast.
Meat feast?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Cool. And then with so much sacrifice, would you say that the life of a professional athlete is tough compared to maybe other professions?
I think so, yeah. I think the highs are higher than probably anyone could ever expect in a normal job, but I think the lows are probably a lot lower. You spend a lot of your time in the dark to eventually come out into your light. You know, it's very rare you get a best time. You know, the best time I got, which broke my British record this summer, it took me 4 years. So I spent 4 years of not actually gaining anything to then suddenly just get 2 100s faster, which is nothing. In real life, 2 100s is absolutely nothing. So I'd say it is really difficult. It pays a toll, you know. You can never switch off from it. When you have a weekend off, you're still an athlete. I can't just suddenly go, let's get on some scooters and go around town, because I'm thinking if I fall off and hurt myself, that's me done. So it's the mental awareness that never switches off, which I think is the hard thing about being an athlete.
With such marginal like splits in terms of like your best times, say for example you said obviously you broke the British record and your own record this summer just passed. Do you get those kind of times during training? Do you know that you're right up on the limit of the record, or is it kind of a bit of a surprise when it comes to competing?
A bit of both, I think. You often know with your training how training's going. You know your training time, so you can't really replicate the exact race as such. But I know if I've been holding this time in training and now I'm suddenly holding 0.2 faster in training, that's almost going to correlate to your race. So I think it's a matter of your consistency throughout your training cycle to what happens during the race day. Similarly, on that race day, pretty much anything can happen. You can get nervous and bottle it and not do so great. You can thrive and suddenly drop a time that you never almost expected to ever go. So you always kind of have a margin, but anything can kind of happen on the day.
Incredible. And do you have a favourite sporting hero?
Yes, I do. That would be Alia Atkinson. She's a swimmer. She's recently retired, but she swam the 50-metre breaststroke. She still holds the world record for the event, for the short course meters. I've met her, I've raced against her, and I just think she was my hero before I met her, and then when I met her was when I was racing against her, and I was like fangirling, and then I'm like, oh, I've got to race you tomorrow kind of thing. But she's just incredible. She's a lovely person. She's just so strong and so explosive and just like everything I kind of want to be. So to actually meet her, I mean, they always say don't meet your heroes, don't they? But she was just an absolute incredible person. I'm so honoured to actually have raced against her during her career. That's
wonderful. And do you have a favourite sporting quote?
I do, yes. I've actually got it tattooed on me.
Oh wow, what is it?
It's fear is a reaction, courage is a decision.
Right, and is that something that you really take into your sport, or do you feel the fear? Obviously, you get the adrenaline response either way, and it's kind of what you do with it. Is that something that you really think about when you come to compete? Yeah,
I think it helps me in the sport and just in life. It sort of came to me, that quote did, during like when I sort of was a bit older with epilepsy. You know, it's a scary thing to have, and it's a normal reaction. Everyone is scared of something, but it's what you do with that. You can either, you know, be scared of it and let that take over you, or you can own that and be courageous and actually do something about it. And that's how I tackle my races, because it is scary. You know, you've worked all your life for this one particular race that lasts 30 seconds. It's a scary thing, but if you can be strong about it, then you can do great things. Yeah.
Do you think that being an athlete has made you a better person?
Yeah, definitely.
How so?
I think just an all-round person. I think it just helps figure out who you are, how to respect others who are in the similar, like, you're not even in similar situations. I think you meet so many different people that I think if I wasn't a swimmer, I would have never met or come across or heard these kind of stories across the world. Like, I've got friends all over the world now, and I just think that kind of awareness is something that you can't gain through anything else.
Brilliant. And do you have any advice to a young person looking to start out a career in sport, maybe in general, and then maybe any swimming specific advice?
I'd say go for it. You can't get into sport when you're 40 years old if you want to do it professionally. I mean, you can do masters, but I think do it now whilst you can and in your prime. And I'd say in swimming, even though you feel like you're alone a lot of the time, you know, you're just looking at a black line, you always can rely on your people around you in the water. And I think the main thing for me is just keep laughing. You know, you don't have long time when your head's above the water, but when it is, make sure it's an enjoyable time.
That is brilliant advice. I think that goes for just about anything as well.
Yeah.
Okay, and finally, what's coming up for the year ahead?
So this year we've got the short course season that lasts till December, which I'm just waiting to see if I'll be selected for the World Short Course Championships. So I'm still waiting to hear about if I'm actually selected for that yet, fingers crossed. But if not, then there's the World Trials for the Long Course Worlds, which is held in April, where I can qualify then.
Brilliant. Well, best of luck for that, and thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a great insight into your sport and your life in general.
Oh, thank you.
Brilliant. Right.
Cheers.
Thanks to all for joining us at home. Make sure to give us a like, subscribe, and check back in a couple of weeks with another podcast. See you later. Bye.
Hi guys, hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, be sure to leave us a like and a subscribe, and check out all our other videos for some more great interviews and content. Bye.